Welcome to the Knit and Grace podcast. This is episode 28. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer. If you're new here, my name is Mia and I'm the maker behind Knit and Grace. And on this little corner of the internet, I like to get up to all things fiber arts related, primarily knitting, but I do quite a bit of spinning, sewing, and I occasionally crochet. I tend to put out videos in the traditional project recap style, as well as making journals and fiber travel vlogs, and I'm passionate about making clothing that fits you no matter your size. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, grab a cup of something cozy, click that subscribe button, and let's get into today's video. We made it through the intro. Okay, guys. Housekeeping at the top. We have not had to podcast in 2 months, so I am a bit rusty. I will be completely honest with you and let you know that I'm having a little bit of a flare-up with my fibromyalgia, so if I feel a little low energy, that is probably why. And yeah, we are just doing the things because we have to get it done. So we are medicated, but we are unscripted. For those of you that like to know the current affairs of what we are getting into. So today I have a project recap for you all. So traditional podcast, but because I'm not feeling well and because it's been quite a bit of time, we're gonna just do this one a little bit different. So I am primarily gonna bring you only FOs, and I have a couple of announcements for you all. So yeah, I'm also racing the daylight. Sunset is in about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and get into this video. I'm so sorry for everyone that has sponsored things this video, but it is what it is, right? Yeah, so I guess I will start with what I'm wearing. The chaos is starting bright and early in the video. And I am wearing my Heirloom Quilt cardigan by Catherine Seeberger. This was made for Rhinebeck 2023. I will do all the things linking below so that you all can see the making process of this cardigan, especially because I did quite a bit of modification to the pattern. So that is where you can go ahead and find the things. So I'm going to start today's episode with the one and only whip that I have to show you today. And a big reason why I want to show you this one, even though it's still a whip, is because it is part of the make-along that I am hosting with Woolyknit over on Instagram. So if you caught the video that went up 2 weeks ago where I did a little bit of a project roundup, or a pattern roundup, I should say, you will know that I am hosting a make-along with Woolyknit for the month of February. So we started on February 2nd, and it's going to run all the way through March 2nd, and it's taking place over on Instagram. If you are knitting throughout the make-along, the month of February, you will be eligible to win a 100-pound voucher to Woolyknit, as long as you follow the the rules of the make along, which are pretty simple. You just need to start and end your project throughout the period of the make along using wool yarn. We using the hashtag and letting us know what inspired the project, particularly what literature inspired the project. So we are getting cozy, reading classic literature, rereading classic literature, and knitting and crocheting and making things that remind us of the great works. And so the project that I want to share with you all is my project for the make along, which I have here in my Mood Living bag, because if you all know my love of Woolyknit, the biggest reason I love their yarns is because they come in cones, and this is my favorite bag to carry those cones in. As I pull my project out, I do want to mention that there is a 20% discount if you buy cones right now, or the British wool cones, I should say, from Woolyknit. So you can get 20% discount using the code, I believe it's KnitandGrace20, but I'll have everything down below as well. And the nice thing for those of us in the US is that Woolyknit will calculate your tariffs and brokerage fees and all of that upon checkout. So everything is paid up front and will be delivered to you via FedEx to the States. So I did receive this yarn gifted as part of the make along that I am using. So I'll show you the yarn first and kind of the way that I like to do it. I am using, again, the British wool 4-ply because that is the yarn that we are highlighting for the make along. And I am using or holding a double. So this is the Loden green color, which I'm not sure how it's going to come up just because, again, we are very low light today. And the way that I like to do it is before I start the project, I will cake up some of the yarn, and then I will hold the 2 strands double. So one from the cake, one from the cone, and then that makes sure that I preserve as much of the yarn on the cone as possible so that it's easy to store away, which is one of my favorite things about these cones, is that they're really easy to store, particularly when you live in like a small space like I do, you know, it can be hard to store sweaters quantities. So the project that I am knitting is the Saglan Pullover by Albina McLaughlin. And I have worked through the beginning increases. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you all, but I will have the pattern link below so you can take a look at it as well. And this is what it's looking like. So you can see this is kind of, it has like this drastic increases down the middle, and yeah, I'm really excited. So I cast this on and I'm about halfway through the raglan shaping. I'm hoping that I can make it through the raglan shaping by the end of this week, so then I can move on to the body and the sleeves and finish it in time for the make along. If you are so inclined, you can also read classic literature while we are knitting, which I am doing, and I'm really excited that I'm actually reading the Anne of Green Gables series for the first time as part of my literature piece of the make along. So be sure to head on over to mine and Woolyknit's Instagram to participate and learn more about the rules. The hashtag is KnitandGrace, and the discount code is KnitandGrace20, all one word, all caps, and for 20% off of British wool cones, the 4-ply cones, through the remainder of the month until the 2nd of March. Holy moly, I feel like I sped through that, but we are chugging along as I see the daylight just really quickly sinking behind you all out the window. As I mentioned, other than the capelin by Albina, everything else that I'm going to be showing in today's podcast is a finished object. And I wanted to start off with one that is a little bit different, and that is this beautiful handbag that I made. So this is the Polene bag by Babylon Leather. This was also kindly gifted to me by them over the month of January, and I recently finished and I wanted to share it with you all here on the channel. So I had been eyeing Babylon Leather's sort of bags for a while. I have some friends that have collabed with them, and they reached out to me, actually perfect timing, in December. And as I get into some of my other makes, you'll notice I actually haven't knit a lot because I unfortunately had a little bit of wrist strain in December and into the beginning of January. So I figured it was perfect timing to work on a little new project, and I did. And when sort of they reached out to me, asked me which bag I would be interested in, I decided to go with the Polene. So this is obviously inspired by the Polene #1 bag, and this is the large size in the color caramel, and I also went with the matching color for the thread stitching on this one. I'll bring it up closer for you all to see. This is the back of the bag. And I will show you all the inside. So I unfortunately didn't get B-roll of myself making this bag because between the wrist strain and just like not feeling well at the beginning of January, I will be completely honest, and I hunkered down and just kind of used this as a little bit of a comfort project and just sewing it here and there while I was watching TV. It didn't take me very long to sew up. I was able to sew in about a week and a half, and I have been loving wearing it. I have essentially been wearing it nonstop since last weekend, which was Vogue Knitting Live when I went, and folks went nuts for it in person. And I also wear it today to my craft circle so that all of my friends could see it in person as well. And yeah, I'm really excited to have partnered with Babylon Leather. Actually, funny enough, although this video is going up a little bit late, they are running a Valentine's Day sale at the moment. So all of the kits are 25% off. And if you use the code MIA10, which is also in the description down below, you'll get an additional 10% off of your bag. So a total of 35% off. But unfortunately, because my video is going up a little late, the Valentine's Day sale only runs until February 8th. So if you're watching this when it goes live, you can definitely use that code for 35% off your entire purchase. And I even bought something for myself for Valentine's Day, which is already in the mail and on the way to me, so that I can maybe, well, one, because I love the experience of sewing the first one, but also get some B-roll for you all as I work up a second one. So if you are interested in the Babylon Leather bags and kits, be sure to look at that link down below, use my code, and come back in the near future to see which bag I decided to buy myself for Valentine's Day. And now we get to the knits. So I have, looking at my notes, a lot of accessories, although I do have 2 slipovers to share with you all since I last podcasted. You have seen both of these slipovers, but not when they were finished. Well, you saw both of them finished actually if you saw my Barcelona vlogs, but I have not shared them finished here on the podcast. So the first slipover that I have to share with you all is the Mochi slipover, and this is by Inesh of Knit. And I will, as always, all of the information will be down below, and I'll be putting pictures up on the side so you guys can see what that looks like. I don't know how much you'll be able to see just because this is a dark color, but this is actually Woolyknit. And so this is Woolyknit Merino that I used for this yarn, or for this pattern, I should say. And so this is a Merino 4-ply cone that I held double to obtain the DK weight gauge that this pattern calls for. So in terms of the needle size that I used US 4 for the body of the slipover and US 2 for the ribbing details. Let me just pull up the gauge information. The gauge for the slipover is 22 stitches by 32 rows. And I absolutely love the way it's turned out. I pretty much have been wearing it nonstop since I finished it. For sizing, I did grade between sizes. I chose to go with a size 6 for the upper body, and that is based on my cross shoulder measurements. And then I graded out to a size 8 with bust darts for the body. This is worked top down. It has a nice sort of saddle shoulder contiguous shoulder situation, which is really lovely to knit. All of the ribbing is done in 1x1 half twisted rib, and it is a cropped boxy fit slipover. Honestly, I have been wearing it to death. I wore it multiple times when I was in Barcelona, just within the week that we were there. I have worn it with t-shirts, I've worn it with button-ups, I've worn it with dresses. It's honestly the best slipover ever. I think it's the right length for me to be able to wear with a lot of my items, and I'm so excited that I was able to test knit this for Inish. So if you are interested in knitting this pattern, again, just look at the description down below for all of the information. Alrighty, it's getting a little dark in the room, but from my experience, my camera is pretty good with picking up the lighting, so I'm going to try to keep going before I need to turn on any artificial lights. So the next finished object that I have to share with you all is the Reading Room Slipover by Amy Scher. And this was another test slash I ran this test, so it's another test knit. And as always, I will be putting in all the pictures, but I do want to get close up so you all can see the texture on this lovely, lovely slipover. So this is a fun pattern because this slipover, there are 2 different neck views. So I chose the V-neck for this one. You could do V-neck or crew neck. And there are 2 different lengths. You can do cropped or high hip. And then there are 3 different hemline options. So you can do either a plain hem, a split hem, or a high-low split hem. So for mine, I did the cropped view with a high-low split hem and a V-neck. The yarn that I used for mine is Kelborn Woolens Andorra, which is discontinued. And I was very sad about that, but immediately when I received the news that it was being discontinued, I did pick up some yarn to make this slipover because it was perfect for this. And this is the color, might have been like mustard, something like that. Again, all of the information will be in my Ravelry project notes. Or I actually can just split up now because I need my notes for this. There we go. It's Dijon. I knew it had something to do with mustard. So the pattern, as I mentioned, has all of these different views. It is knit using a sport weight yarn. I believe the original yarn was Ulysse, Durham Natura Ulysse. The gauge for this pattern is 26 stitches by 36 rows in the textured pattern. And Amy does also provide you with the stockinette gauge in case you need to sort of figure out if your yarn substitution will work as well, but you do have to gauge in pattern or gauge swatch in pattern because that gauge or the pattern does actually shrink up quite a bit from what your normal gauge would be. For mine, I used US 4 or 3.5 millimeter needles, and then for my ribbing, I used US 2.5 or 3 millimeter needles. I knit size D, which is the 4th size, with a 2-inch bust dart for mine. And so as I mentioned, that was the V-neck cropped with a high-low split hem. Other than that, other than the bust dart situation, the only other adjustment that I made to the pattern was cropping it by 2.5 inches because I do have a short torso, so that I could achieve the right length crop based on the way that the pattern is written. So that is my reading room slipover by Amy Sher. Alrighty, so in an attempt to be a little less manic and rushed, I did decide to set up the studio lights, and it looks like everything is looking okay. Hopefully it is, although it probably is looking a little cool tone, but it is what it is. So those were my two garment finish objects for the past couple of months. And so now we move on to the accessories. So if you all did watch my Barcelona Chronicles, if you will, you know that I think in November, I finished a big spin that I did, which was a big combo spin of various purple toned yarns. And I decided that I was going to use them in a traveler shawl. So initially I was planning on using all of the yarn within the same shawl. So it was sort of a 3-braid 2-ply combo where I spun up half or each of the 3 braids in half, and then I plied the colors all together in a combo. So where I plied like braid 1 with 2, braid 2 with 3, and then braid 1 with 3. And I made them all into 2-ply yarn. And I absolutely love how it turned out, and I love that kind of the yarn, you know, sort of came out exactly as I wanted it to. And I decided that I was going to take it with me to Barcelona as my plain knitting, which would be the Traveler Shawl by Andrea Mowry. So I did knit the Traveler Shawl, and then I knit the Traveler Cowl as well. So I will show you the shawl first. And unfortunately, I have not taken finished object photos of these yet, so eventually they will go up. But this is my Traveler Shawl. And I am absolutely obsessed. I think that it is the perfect size. It is nice and lightweight, and I just love the way that the yarn turned out. So if you did watch my Barcelona vlog, you will know that I had originally planned on kind of working the big first half of the big triangle with one skein, then the second half of the big triangle with another skein, and then the smaller triangle with the third skein. However, as I was knitting it and I got through halfway through the increases, which I believe was about here, I still had tons and tons of the first skein left. So what I decided to do instead was to finish that first skein, so it was finished completely, and then start with the second skein, which I did. Let's see. I think I started that second skein right about here. And then I used the second skein to knit up the small triangle. And it was perfect because I used up all of the first skein of yarn that I had hand spun, and then I only had about 8 grams left of the second skein of yarn. And I absolutely love how it turned out. I also ended up doing, so I had one braid was just BFL, another braid was a BFL silk, and then the third braid that I used was a rambouillet. And so when I was choosing which I would use as the second skein in the Traveler Shawl, I decided to stick with one of the combos that I had done with the BFL silk with the BFL, because I had started the first skein as the combo that was BFL and BFL silk. So it kind of gives the whole entire shawl a little bit of a heathered look, where the silk doesn't take the dye up as much, and also like where maybe as I was spinning it, you know, there are sections that have a little bit more silk than others. So it kind of still gave the entire shawl a uniform look. So then I had an entire third skein, and not necessarily nothing to do with it, but since I was already on a roll, and I believe, was Tashi knitting their traveler cowl while we were away? I don't remember if Tashi was knitting theirs or wore theirs, and I just decided that I needed the traveler cowl as well, because why not? And also, if you have been around for the Rhinebeck recap, you know that we are going to be knitting the traveler hood. So I was like, you know, we're just going to keep going down this road. And so I decided to knit the traveler cowl as well by Andrea Mowry. And so here it is. And so if I fold it in half so y'all can kind of see the color transition a bit more, that's kind of how it looks. And there it is. So this one was spun up completely with that the third skein, and this one has no silk in it. So this one was a combination of the BFL with the Rambouillet. So I'm really excited how they turned out. They're kind of a little bit matching, but not quite matching. And I'm really excited to have both of these. I have worn both of these, although more recently it's been a bit too cold to wear a little lightweight accessories, but I know that I'm going to get tons of wear of them over the spring. For these, I didn't do anything other than follow the pattern. I did use US 6 needles as recommended in the pattern. Although if I remember correctly, the pattern is technically like gaugeless. I might be lying about that one. But I did use the recommended US 6, and I just kind of knit exactly as the pattern recommended. The cowl ended up exactly blocking to size, and then the shawl, I believe it blocked to the width, but it just blocked a little bit deeper, but not by much. So I would say that I was pretty on gauge with the pattern, and I'm really excited about them because they were such mindless knits, and I'm really excited to spin my next project so that I can knit my next Traveler series item, which will be coming up later this year for Rhinebeck. And then now we have the last finished object of 2025, and they are the Rodin Mitts by Isolde Teague. And I'll put them on for you all so you can see what they look like, because I have now blocked these even though I have been wearing them pretty nonstop. I cast these on and bound them off in a day. So these were my Thanksgiving project. And so I cast them on before Thanksgiving dinner, and I bound them off at around 11:45 on Thanksgiving evening. So all knit up in like about 6 hours or so. And so they do feature this 2x2 rib all the way out, and it has this really lovely shaping in the palm. And they do feature this fold over cuff, and I apologize for the horrible nails, but that is what they look like. And I'm really excited about these. Again, if you watched my Rhinebeck video, you would have seen that I picked up this yarn. So this is Upland Fiber Co. Core Worsted in the color Saddle. Saddle? Something like that. I know for sure I do not have a project page for this one. There are a few projects today that will be a little delayed in getting the project pages up, but I picked up this yarn from my friend Michael of Upland Fiber Co. when I was at Indian Tangled in the fall, specifically because I wanted to knit up some fingerless mitts. And so I finally got around to it for Thanksgiving, and I am super excited with how these turned out. These are really great for when I'm out and about and I still need my fingers. I can pull them up and just still use my little fingertips. And what else to say about these? I sort of did a little bit of a mismatch because I knit them to the second adult size, so the adult medium, but I wasn't quite on gauge, so I kind of did some weird math that I couldn't begin to tell you what I did because I didn't take notes. And since I knit both of them together, essentially, I just kind of did what I did. But I'm really excited with how they turned out, and I've been wearing them a lot when I'm out and about, especially when I am shoveling or cleaning off the car and I still need my fingers, but I still need to keep my hands warm. These have been great. I did originally think that I would be using these a lot more in the office, but I do think that the worsted weight is just a little bit too thick for me in terms of how I type. So I have not been using them as much in the office, but I have been using them out and about, except for the last couple of weeks where we've been getting like these negative double-digit days. But I'm really excited about these. And yeah, so I think this is the last of the 2025 finished objects that I have to share with you all. And then unfortunately, I did take a knitting break for all of the month of December and most of the month of January. And then when I came back to knitting in January, I decided to just go yarn balls to the walls and cast on all the things. Oh, also, for these, I think I mentioned they're the Rodin Mitts by Isolde Teague, and they're an Upland Fiber Co. I could not tell you what size needles I use. I can't tell you anything about these other than I knit them. So, sorry about that. I am a bad podcaster, but here we are. Alrighty, so now we have both the first cast on and first finished object of 2026. And that is the Alma scarf by Emma of the New York Year. This is another one that unfortunately I have not taken like worn finished object photos of, but I do have some really nice finished object photos because I don't know that you all can see the texture really well. Oh yeah, you can. So as you can see, this is a seed stitch. Yeah, seed stitch and cable texture. This is the third pattern in the Alma series by Emma. So she's also put out mitts and socks in the same cable motif. And I had the pleasure of testing this for her, and I'm really excited. I really love the shape. As you can see, it's like this trapezoidal shape, which I think is perfect because, let's see if we can put it on. It doesn't create a lot of bulk, which is perfect for putting it under your coat this time of year. You can just kind of wrap it around and tie it, and then just kind of spread it out. And it works perfectly under your coat, giving you a lot of warmth in the neck without any bulk in the shoulder. And so this is actually how I've been wearing it under my coat, but you can also, you know, kind of style it like a little bit of a Boy Scout little necktie if you wanted to do that. You could also even do like a little cuff if you had a little cuff. So you could do a little bit of a Boy Scout kind of styling for it. And I just saw this over my shoulder. I was like, I didn't think that this would be, but look, it gives you a little bit of shoulder coverage, which would be perfect in the spring, especially if you have like a nice little brooch or shawl pin or even a little cuff. That would be cute for the spring if you wanted to style it with a dress. So I think that it's a really versatile design. I had never thought to knit a trapezoidal scarf before, but honestly, I'm kind of in love with it, and I might have to figure out or seek out more patterns in this design, but definitely also knit this one again, because if you are like me and you wear a very, very thick coat in the winter, I have my nice big Canada Goose full length coat. Sometimes it can get a little bulky in the top, and this is a great way to have something that's really close to your neck and still gives you a lot of coverage without giving you a lot of, bulk everywhere else. So this pattern is, let's see, as I mentioned, it's by Emma of the New York Year. It's the Alma scarf. I use the recommended needle size, which is a US 7 or 4.5mm needle. And I will say I did get gauge with the 7 needles. However, I didn't block my gauge swatch. So I kind of just did a quick and dirty gauge swatch to make sure I was getting the gauge that I needed for the pattern. And I did get the gauge for the pattern. And then I just kind of went with it. The reason why I say that is because when I did block it, it did block out about 3 inches wider and 2 inches deeper than the pattern calls for. So I did use a little bit more yarn than recommended in the pattern. The yarn that I used for mine is Newburgh Yarn Co. Authentic DK, which is a non-superwash merino yarn by my friend Kim of Newburgh Yarn Co. And funny enough, this was my first ever purchase from Kim at Flock 2024, and the color is called Parlor. Hopefully I'm back in the same position because I did lose battery. But as I was mentioning, as I was closing out the Alma scarf, I did buy, these were my first 2 skeins that I ever bought from Kim back in 2024. And unfortunately, when this video goes up, I think that the pre-order that has this color again, which was the Victorian collection pre-order, has just closed. So unfortunately, the fact that I have not been feeling well and wasn't able to get this podcast up for you all last week means that you're just missing all of the things. So I'm sorry, I was a bad podcaster, but health situations come up and here we are. So I think that is everything to share with you all about the Alma scarf by Emma of the New York Year. Alrighty, so the next finished object of 2026. Funny enough, both the Alma scarf and this FO were both projects that I signed up to test knit in December, right before I hurt my wrist. And then, luckily the Alma scarf I did finish in time, and then this next pattern was delayed, and therefore I was able to finish it in time for the release. Although I have now put up a project page, so I should probably get around to that soon. But the next project are the Waystone Mitts Light by Alicia Plummer. And these are another mitt pattern. So I will put them on for you all. And so this is where I was going when I was mentioning that the rodent mitts are just a little bit too thick for me to knit to wear when I am working. However, these mittens are the exact perfect size and fit for me to wear when I am working at my computer. And they are so warm, which you would never think. But that is what they look like. They also have very similar thumb shaping, although this is a half fisherman's rib mitt, and then it has 1x1 ribbing. And that's what they look like. So this yarn will look familiar because it is the same as this one. So this is Woolyknit Merino 4-ply, and for this particular pattern I held the yarn single because it is a fingering weight pattern. The gauge for this is 32 stitches by 64 rows in half brioche stitch or half fisherman's rib. And it calls for a fingering weight pattern or fingering weight yarn on US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles. So I did do the needle size. I got gauge on the recommended needle size and just knit them all the way through. They were super quick knit. I knit the second size, so the middle size, the adult M, which is a 6-inch finish circumference. Is that what you call it, right? hand circumference, as my hand circumference is 7 inches. And so it is recommended to have, I believe, between 1.5 to 1/2 inch of negative ease, as with most knits. So I did knit that one, or the middle size for the recommended ease. Everything else I knit exactly to length to everything. And so I will hopefully, before this video goes up, put a project page for you all, even if I don't have pictures yet, and then hopefully get around to taking pictures. I did block these, so that's why they look so nice. But I've also been wearing them nonstop because it has been super cold and my office is really cold, and they are the perfect size for me to be able to work and type and do all the things without feeling like I'm being restricted. Funny enough, I think it's two things. So one is, I think that they're very thin on the wrist, so I still feel like I don't have a lot of bulk at the wrist. And then of course they are very thin at the fingers, so that I can kind of just really easily type away, which I think is the issue that I had with my rodent mitts, is that not even just the finger folds situation was too much. I think even the bulk at the wrist was a little bit too much, which you want that maybe when you're doing some colder weather activities, but then when you're sitting at your desk typing or even knitting, I can knit with these as well, you want a little bit less bulk. So these are perfect for that. I do think I actually maybe I have been trying to track how long it takes me to knit things, and I'm pretty sure that I did track how long it took me to knit these, but I couldn't tell you where I put that information. So maybe next time I will start tracking this information. Y'all, I promise I am medicated, but this is, I guess, what happens when you come to the podcast with no script and a little bit crazy. So I think I have just one more accessory to share with you all, and then we can close out the podcast with a nice little announcement. Alrighty, so the last finished object that I have to share with you all is another accessory, and it is the Weekend Hat by Hiromi Nagasawa. And that's what it looks like. I am so obsessed with this hat, and I'm really upset that I did not get finished object photos worn of this one last weekend when I wore it, because I actually had the cutest little combo that I realized worked really well together. I don't know where my small fry is. I took it off because I was wearing it today, but I was wearing this one with my small fry, which is a really nice like peachy pink color, and the sort of color combo was really great against my black coat. But as I mentioned, this is the Weekend Hat by Hiromi Nagasawa. It is only available in one size, and I did use the recommended needle size, which is a US 6 or 4mm needle for the main needle, and a US 4 or 3.5mm for the ribbing. I also even got row gauge, but for some reason, I didn't quite get row gauge in the decrease situation, so I feel like my hat's just a little bit less tall than it's intended to be. Not by much, by like a 1/2 inch or so. But you know, when you have a big noggin and you're knitting a one size hat, you know. The other thing that I kind of I'm thinking I might go back and do is I did knit the double brim as called for in the pattern, and I knit that to length, but I kind of want my brim to be even a little bit deeper. So I think that I might actually go back and pick up all the way around the brim and just knit a little bit more to make the brim a little bit deeper. And then I think that that will also solve for the shallowness of the top of the hat. Now, it fits me perfectly fine as it is. It's, you know, it fits over my head, it covers my ears, all the things, but I did want it to just be, or when I had mentioned wearing it, I did want it to be just a little bit, have a little bit of room on the top. So I think that that's what I might do, especially because I do have leftover yarn and I would like a little bit of a deeper brim situation. So the yarn that I used is Newburgh Yarn Co. And this is the color Coleman Red on the British wool, which is a DK weight base. If you all have been around for a while, you know this color. And this is the color that I used to knit my campus cardigan back in the fall. And I had a leftover skein, so I decided to knit a hat. And funny enough, my friend Samantha Guerin, also knit the same exact hat in the same exact color in the same exact yarn. So I completely just copied her. So this is just completely inspired by Sam, and I am really happy with the outcome of this. Now, I did knit this during the Red Hat movement, or Red Hat make along, all of that was going on Instagram. And so, you know, I'd be remiss to talk about everything that's going on in this country. I think that if you have been following me for quite some time, you are somewhat aware of my views. Something that a lot of people may not know is that previously I worked for an employer that did not allow me to speak about my personal views on social media, and that is no longer the case. So in case you have been around here for a while and you are not aware of what my views are, although I can't imagine that you are not, just simply by the color of my skin and who I am as a person. But, you know, ICE needs to be gone and dismantled from this country. There is no reason why the situation that is happening in Minnesota or anywhere else in this country, even in my own state where people are being kidnapped, going to school, going to work, none of this is okay. None of this has ever been okay. And is not the country that I grew up in, or thinking that I grew up in. It is not the country that both of my parents immigrated to so that their families could have a better life. And, you know, being a daughter of immigrants, although I was born here, but being a daughter of immigrants, being an Afro-Latina, like, this is not okay, what is happening in this country. And, you know, as much as knitting the red hat and doing all of the things sort of brings us comfort, and as hard as it is for me to sit here and talk about pretty things and put out content, in the midst of all this, my heart is breaking. And my heart is breaking for this country. My heart is breaking for friends that are impacted. My heart is breaking for friends of friends and family members of friends who are being impacted by everything that is going on here. And I don't know, you know, in terms of knitting the red hat and doing things and or making the pretty things, these are all ways that we can definitely feel better. But the biggest thing that I can hopefully parlay to you all and put out to you all is that you have to continue to call your representatives, call your senators, make sure that you are showing up and voting for your values, because at the end of the day, that is why we are in this mess. And if more people show up and make their voice known and put their dollars where their mouth is, I think that, you know, donate to the causes, but not only donate to Minnesota, which definitely we need to be there for them, but show up in your local community. Even if, let's say, you can't donate monetarily, go to your local food bank, go to your local shelter, figure out ways that you as a community can come together. Because the biggest thing that I will say that I've seen recently, especially living in a city that's really just essentially immigrant. I mean, I live in Jersey City. This was the first city that people came to when they got off the boats and trains from Ellis Island. And living in a city like I do, and still seeing ICE show up and go against the will of the people and the government and try to take people without valid warrants. The biggest thing that I've seen online and in this community, specifically in my community, is that unfortunately there is a lot of neighbors turning on neighbors. And so what I would love to share with you all is that while we still need to find joy and we still need to find ways to resist publicly and visually, and also monetarily, and by calling our representatives and our senators, the biggest thing that I would ask of all of you is to get in touch with the community, learn who the people that live around you are, learn their stories, you know, learn ways that you can help them. If you see one of your community members being, you know, targeted, there are things that you can do, and just ways that you can assist. And that is the biggest thing that's going to just go a long way. I didn't come into this video intending to speak this way, so I'm definitely probably not making a lot of sense, especially since I'm not feeling great mentally. But I think that the biggest thing that I've seen over the past several weeks, and specifically in my community, as I see these comments online, is that we need to be there for each other as community, because at the end of the day, some of these people that are calling ICE, are calling, you know, are letting these things happen, are our very neighbors who are smiling to our faces and then calling authorities behind our backs. So, you know, if you're able, especially if you're not able to donate monetarily, whether it's to, you know, Minnesota, Minneapolis, or locally, I really would encourage you to get out in your local community, and really volunteer and really get to know people, because at the end of the day, that is what combats racism. That is what combats xenophobia. That is what combats anti-Semitism. Is we need to learn who we are living with. We need to understand that everyone bleeds red just like us, and everyone has a story, and everyone has the same struggles that we do. And I hope that those of us that are making community together, whether it's online on Instagram or whether it's here on my channel, that we can all really just come together and we all are of like-minded thought processes. Now, what I will say is, if this does not fly with you, you are welcome to see your way out. There's no need to announce your departure. If there are any people who decide to comment on this video with any negative comments, you will be deleted and you will be blocked. And yeah, I don't know. I unfortunately went off on a tangent. So unfortunately, just because I probably will look back on this and not think that I said the right things or sort of made the best statements, but hopefully you all can feel that I'm speaking from the heart, and that we can continue to fight the good fight, and hopefully, you know, get ICE out of this country, because it needs to be completely dismantled. And with that, I guess I will end the finished object portion of this episode, and I do have an announcement for you all on some fun plans that I have coming up, and a little bit of an insight into more videos to come this month. Okay, so my camera overheated, so I was able to step away, and I hope that on editing, everything that I said sounded good. Not because I didn't want to say anything or I wasn't planning on saying anything. I just always like to sort of gather my thoughts and script these comments before I put them out there, just so that I can, you know, just the way that I like to approach things. But it came from the heart, and hopefully you all felt that. But as we wrap up today's video, and again, this is kind of the way that I find comfort in my making, in addition to the things that I'm doing to support my mental health otherwise, as well as support my community, and both immediate community and community in terms of our country at large. I do have a fun announcement, and then sort of what's coming up for the rest of the month. So if you all have been here for a while, you know that I started my spinning journey in May of last year, and one of the big things that came out of that has been a friendship with Trisha of Yarn Jam, who I've mentioned quite a bit on the channel. And I love Trisha's fibers, and I spin with Trisha's fiber all the time. And I'm really excited to announce that Trisha will be hosting a Podcasters Collection 2.0, and the pre-order will be available later this month on February 26th. And I am one of the lucky podcasters that was chosen to collaborate for the second Podcasters Collection. So in light of the upcoming collection, I did want to share with you all the color that I came up with for the collaboration. And I am so excited about this. And yeah, so this is the color that I came up with for the collaboration. And I am so obsessed. And so not only are we collaborating with Trisha on this beautiful fiber, but Trisha is also releasing a new base, which this is my fiber dyed up on the new base, which is a heather gray base. So this is the natural Shaniko, which Trisha has carried in her shop for quite some time. And she has expanded to carry a gray heathered base of the same base. And this is my color dyed up on that base. So you may have seen a sneak peek, but I named my color Graceful Blooms. And I think it's just an ode to Mia. If you see this color, you can see like they're all the colors, and I wanted to go for a sort of dark and moody, like dried flowers kind of feel, kind of like a cloistered English garden. As you all know, I'm in grad school, so that was kind of the feel that I was going for. And then I wanted to have some really bright pops of a more neon color, and I think Trisha nailed it with these fuchsia pops of color. So these two are gifted, although I did purchase some more fiber because y'all know. And I am really excited to share more about this second Podcasters Collection with you all. So this is a sneak peek of what my color looks like. Some of my other friends that have been chosen for the second collection are Tashi of Tangles in Starlight or Stitches in Starlight, depending on whether you are finding them on Instagram or YouTube, Rachel and Renee of the Table 10 podcast, and Emily of the Botanical Knitter. We have some really amazing colors. I actually have everyone's color here at home, so I will be really excited to share all of that with you in the coming weeks. So yeah, I think that's really everything that I have for you all for this podcast. I know there are usually a few other things that I usually include, like the numbers and things like that, but I think that this is plenty of content for my first podcast back. And I'll slowly get into the rhythm of things as I release more podcasts. But what you can expect from me this month is I am working on a little vlog for you all. So you'll get to see me knitting some on my caplan for the Woolyknit collab, as well as spinning up my samples for the Yarn Jam collab. We'll see when my package from Babylon Leather gets here. So who knows, I might even start like breaking into that, but essentially I have a little bit of a vlog of how I've been caring for myself through my crafting, as well as just getting back on track as the semester starts. And that will come up for you all either next weekend or the following weekend. It just depends on how quickly I can get that edited. And then you will see me again on the 26th, which is a Thursday, and that is the day that the podcast collection pre-order will launch. And so in that video, I'll once again show you my colors, I'll show you the samples, I'll let you know what I will be spinning for, and I will show you all everyone else's colors that I was able to purchase for myself. So I'm really excited about everything that is coming up this month. It just so happened that all of my collabs happen to happen in the month of February. It's not usually the way that it goes here. As you all know, if you've been here for a while, one, I don't do many collabs because you all know I only collaborate with brands that I really am passionate about and I purchase from or have purchased from. But also, I don't like to bombard you all with too much sort of ads or gifted collaborative content all at once. But this is kind of the way that the cookie crumbled. And yeah, I'm really excited about the next few weeks. I can't believe that the first week of February is already over and we have 2 more weeks to go. And I'm just really excited to be able to get back into my making now that my wrist is better. I can spin again as well as knit. And just looking forward to showing you all what I have been getting up to just take care of myself. So I think more than ever, my sign off really kind of is needed. But before I get there, as always, please be sure to do all the podcasty things, like subscribe if you haven't already and click that bell icon so that you are notified every time I post a video. As always, let me know what you're working on while you watch this video. Also, if you are going to join in on the make along, be sure to leave me a comment down below. But don't forget to head on over to Instagram because it is an Instagram make along. So that's where all of the prizes and everything will be pulled from. And I'm just really excited to spend the next couple of weeks with you all as we wrap up this month. So until next time, be sure to take care of yourselves, your loved ones, and each other. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.